Hare Krishna, welcome back to our continuing series of discussions on the Bhagavad Puran. So today we have a very exciting chapter. This chapter is the fifth chapter of the Bhagavatam, second canto. And if you remember our previous discussion, after having received the essence of Vedic teachings in the form of the answer to his fundamental question, Parikshit Maharaj then moved on to implementing the answer that he received. So the question was about his duty at that in those final moments of his life, and the answer he received was to remember the Supreme Lord. And so now Parikshit wanted to remember the Supreme Lord through the process of hearing about him. And so the first thing that he wanted to hear about the Lord, the first question that he asked in this context is, in the previous chapter we saw how Parikshit, he asks that whatever you have spoken is perfectly right. I want to know how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes, and which are difficult even for the devatas to understand. So through his own Atma Maya, through his own personal energies, he's creating this whole universe. I want to understand how the creation of this cosmos takes place. Interestingly, this is a theme that exists in all world traditions. In fact, in the academic world, it's called as cosmogony, the story of creation. Sometimes they attribute the word creation myth or creation legends, because across world traditions, every tradition has a concept of a story for creation. For example, if you see in many Greco-Roman traditions, in the beginning there was some chaos, a chaos that separated the sky and the earth, and that led to the earth, and then a whole story extends where how even on earth eventually there was the fight between the titans and the gods win, and eventually Kronos and then Zeus, and then the whole creation of human society. There is a whole creation legend in the Greek tradition. And if you see in the Abrahamic traditions, it's more of a commandment. Like in the beginning, God said, "Let there be light," and then light manifested, and that's how creation began. Even in the Islamic traditions also, God said, "Be, let it be, let there be." The very famous phrase "kun faya kun," that it means be it. So that is an instruction that the God gave, and immediately the creation manifested, right? Whereas in if you see in certain in Chinese traditions, for example, in the beginning there was the Tao, and that expanded, and from the one it became two, the yin and yang, and that yin and yang expanded into 10,000 things as part of the variety of this creation, right? So like that, if you see even the Mesopotamians, they have a whole story of how there was a god who slayed a dragon, and that's how from the body of the dragon the heaven and earth were created, and so on. So if you see the Vedic, even within the Vedic fold, for example, there are many stories. For example, the very famous Nasadiya Sukta of the Rig Veda, it explains that how in the beginning. So when I was growing up in my childhood, there was this very famous TV series called as the Discovery of India, Bharat Ek Khoj, and the opening song, opening title song of that was a Hindi translation of this Nasadiya Sukta, which described that how in the beginning nothing existed. Even the non-existence also did not exist. There was no Sat and Asat, nothing was there, right? And what moved? There existed neither air, nor space, nor heaven, or beyond. What moved back and forth? From where and in whose protection did the water exist? Death did not exist. nor did deathlessness. There was no sign of night or day, but the one. So that's how many times in the Nasadiya Sukta, that supreme divine is referred to in third person. The one breathed without wind by its own independent will, and there existed nothing else beyond that. Only darkness existed, right? And so on. And from there, the creation came about. Very, very famous sutras, sukta, just around 7 stanzas. But the Nasadiya Sukta of the Rig Veda, the 10th mandala, is a very famous set of prayers, right? So like that, you will see there are so many such variations and versions of the creation story. The beauty of the Bhagavatam's presentation, right? And because understand, we saw in the first canto how Vyasa in his mature state of spiritual realization, Bhagavatam was inspired within his heart. So all these pastimes that he captured in the Bhagavad Puran, they are the highest conclusion of the Vedic philosophy. And it's amazing how, if you draw parallels, if you see many of the popular creation legends, the creation stories that we studied, it's like out of some chaos order came, or out of some dragon some creation came, or just somebody just ordained, right, that yes, let the creation. So it seems like creation came out of an order, but actually, if you see from the, even if you draw parallels with modern science, where from a point of singularity something emerged, space and time emerged. So the Vedic philosophy also talks about some kind of an emergence, something emerging. It was not a state of nothingness, it was not a state of somethingness also, but what it is, from what things emerged, and what triggered that emergence. That is the subtleties that we are going to understand in this chapter and the next chapter. Prabhupada very beautifully titles this chapter as the cause of all causes. Because if you grew up in the Vedic culture, we know Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, Shiva is the destroyer, right? And these are the three divine trinity, the Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya, the creation, maintenance, and destruction of this world is maintained by them. So naturally one will say, oh, which means for somebody to destroy, there has to be something that is existing. And for something to exist, it has to be created. So seems like Brahma, he is the first person who created, right? Because if Brahma didn't create, what will Vishnu maintain? If Vishnu doesn't maintain, what will Shiva destroy? So seems like Brahma is that supreme entity, as the expression goes, the buck stops here, right? So it seems like if you extrapolate to the creator of the creator of the creator of the creator, somewhere that original entity who manifested in this world is Brahma. So Vyasa very beautifully presents in this chapter what is Brahma's take on creation. The whole world thinks Brahma is a creator. So let's go understand from Brahma directly who is the creator, right? And guess who goes, right? So throughout Bhagavatam, you will see two people are repeatedly glorified throughout Bhagavatam: Guru and Krishna. Who's Guru? Vyasa. So Vyasa's Guru is Narada. So he is going to make his entry in every canto. Every important pastime, you will see Narada's entry there, right? Because he can't stop being grateful to his spiritual master. So Vyasa puts Narada, whenever Narada is doing something, it has to be something significant, right? And of course, the Supreme Lord is glorified. So you will see Narada, if you remember in the previous chapter, we ended where Shukdev Goswami, he said that, this question that you asked, very brilliant question, this exact same question or the same subject matter was discussed between Narada and Brahma. Let me quote that conversation. That's where we ended last time. So what exactly did Narada ask? So Narada, he approaches Brahma and he asks him, please tell me that transcendental knowledge which specifically directs one to the truth of the Atma Tattva, one who understands the self, the Atma Tattva. I want to understand that, right? And very interesting point here, Narada doesn't sit and speculate. Perhaps, maybe, right? So when you want to understand, and this is also one of the important aspects of the Vedic epistemology, the Vedic systems of learning, right? Our logical deduction and our sensory perception have a barrier, right? Because if I want to, for example, today we understand history through archaeology, right? We dig into the layers of earth. But if you want to understand creation, where will you dig? There was no earth to dig back then. So where will you start digging to understand the source of creation? So some things which are beyond our perception, we need to go straight to an authentic source, to a verbal testimony, to the Shabda Praman. And that here is Brahma himself, who knows the creation better than the immediate creator, Brahma. Therefore, Narada doesn't speculate, rather he goes straight to the source and asks him this question, right? And very powerfully Prabhupada writes this point that therefore transcendental knowledge is received through this form of disciplic succession, right? So you cannot just speculate about these matters, but you have to go to the source, right? Because we are talking about a time when the laws of physics itself didn't exist. So our concept of logic and understanding and reasoning is governed by the physics that we observe around us. So how can I speculate on what happened before the moment of the singularity transformed into the creation? Therefore, it's beyond our reach. That's where Narada, he connects to Brahma and he asks him a very pertinent question. And look at the, like Parikshit, he asks a simple question, explain the creation of the Supreme Lord. But look at the technicalities that Narada is interested in. He asks 6 things about creation. In text number 2, all these 6 themes are captured, and literally this chapter and next chapter are an elaboration of those 6 questions of Narada. He says, Yad Rupam. Explain to me, Rupam means form, and something manifests, it takes form, right? So what are the symptoms of this creation? What are the characteristics? When you say universe, what exactly is happening in this universe? If I want to say describe this book, so you will say, oh, this book, it's red in color, it has red front, white color back, it has some weight, mass, right? So you describe certain characteristics. So what are the characteristics of this universe? Yad Rupam. And he says, Yad Adhishtanam. Adhishtanam means the basis, the support, the shelter. On what is this universe standing, supported? What is the substrata on which the universe is being held? Not by Greek Atlas, he's not lifting this universe. Not some cosmic turtle which is holding this universe, right? Not some gigantic elephants, or there are many other some cosmic fish. So different world traditions have these different animal spirits that are holding the universe. No, what is that support? What is the basis that he wants to know? Then Yata Srishtam, that way, how the whole process of creation unraveled. How did it just like tick a flash and tada, it just manifested? Or were there some transformations in this material energy that took place? How did the whole creation unfold? Yat Srishtam. Then Yat Samstam. Samstam means when something is created, right? It's a transformation of energy that happens. It also has to unwind, because everything that has a beginning also needs to have an end. So when the universe is wound up, where does it go? Right? So when the energies are withdrawn, where are they withdrawn? That also is a very powerful question. Then yat param, under who? So if something is happening in an orderly way, who is the order maker and order ensurer? Who's that governing force? Who's controlling? On what basis this param? Who's that controller? Under whose control is this happening? Right? And yat cha. And what are the fundamental building blocks of this creation? Right? What are the details of this creation? While characteristics are more functional, right? Yad Rupam, the first question is more of the functional characteristics, the fundamental building block. Like we described the book, but what is the book made of? The book is made of paper, the book is made of some ink, right? So those building blocks of creation, what are those? So that all of this he wants to understand, right? Now, just to give you a prelude to an answer to this, right? If you remember our YTTC classes, we discussed the theory of causation from Vedanta, and we discussed how there is the upadana or the material cause, there is a nimitta or the instrumental cause, there is the ultimate cause or hetu, and there is the adhyatma or the formal cause, the design cause. That was in fact our first class, I believe, in our YTTC, right? Second class, yes. So a quick answer: the material cause, even within the Vedic fold, by the way, there are certain schools of thought that believe that the material cause, the elements, they are there, but the instrument is material nature, Maya Shakti. She is acting on her own, and almost as if Prakriti is its own sentient entity, who is not just sentient but also independent entity, right? And she is doing the creation on her own. There are certain such schools of Vedic thought as well, right? And regarding the hetu, the ultimate cause, it seems like, for example, the living entity is the reason why. Who's the ultimate benefactor of this whole creation? For example, if you remember in the Yoga Sutras, we discussed this, that the reason for the Prakriti's existence is bhoga and apavarga, for the sake of gratification of the Purusha or for the sake of liberation of the Purusha. Or in other words, Prakriti exists solely for the sake of the individual soul. That's the Yoga Sutra version, which means the soul is ultimate cause for this creation, right? And the design, Prakriti has its own design. So if you see, even within the Vedic fold, there are so many confusing answers. So just to give you a little prelude to what's going to come, all these causes have an ultimate cause, that is the Supreme Lord. Sarva Karana Karanam. Karana means the cause. That's a very aptly, Prabhupada titles this chapter as the cause of all causes. Before the existence existed, there was an ultimate cause, the absolute truth, that Param Satyam. That cause is going to be revealed now. So Narada is going to, he asks these very technical questions, very specific questions about creation. And we're going to see whenever that specific answer comes, we'll highlight that and understand them. And then he says, my dear father, because Narada is also son of Brahma. He says, my dear father, I know you are the most qualified person to be asked this question about creation, because you know Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat, past, present and future, and this whole creation, this is called as Karama Kalanai, which is basically in your kara, in your hand, you have a amla, a gooseberry. Prabhupada translate as a walnut. So how small, tiny a walnut is. It literally, you can grip it in your hand. So you can literally capture the whole walnut in your hand, which means you know everything about that walnut. That's how expert you are. I know this subject like the back of my hand. We have an expression in English. Basically, it means you are an expert in that. So that's where this expression comes, that you know everything within this universe within your grip, just like a walnut, indicating that you are an expert. You know that every nook and corner of this creation because you created this world. So obviously you are the best person to be asked this question, right? So he asked, my dear father, what is the source of your knowledge? Because I see sometimes you meditate. If you are all in all meditating upon, and under whose protection are you standing, and under whom are you working? What is your real position? Do you alone create all the entities by your own personal energy? Right? Because the analogy, very popular analogy in the Vedic, for some kind of a self-manifested creation, the analogy of a spider is used. Because if you look at a spider creates beautiful webs. Especially in this season in GEV, after monsoon, spiders become super active. Everywhere I go, I see spider webs. And they are so expert, they literally jump from one end of the road to the other end of the road and lay their webs, right? And so, but where is the web coming from? From its own self. The spider, like you and I, when we have to build a house, we take earth from, the soil from earth, we take wood from trees and we build, right? We are only the transforming agents. We didn't create the wood and bricks, but spider, it creates its own web. It creates the beautiful, structure. And if you notice, a spider can also absorb its own creation. And if you ever saw, spiders can also swallow their own web and annihilate its own creation. So it seems like the spider is a self-contained entity. It can create, it can maintain, it can destroy as per its will. I see you are like that. Are you indeed fully independent? Right? Are you also doing everything by your own self-sufficient energy without any help? Right? And so he says that whatever we can understand by the nomenclature, characteristics, and features of a particular thing is not created from any source other than that of your lordship. Because everything in this world that you see is Brahma's creation. So clearly, nothing exists in this world which is outside Brahma's, bag. Everything comes from his sack, right? So which means you are, it seems like nothing no creation of this world is independent of you. So you are you indeed the supreme creator working by your own energy, right? And so he says, yet we are moved to wonder about the existence of someone more powerful than you when you think of your great austerities. Because Narada heard from Brahma himself, the creation in the beginning, I did some austerities and that's how I got these powers. Oh, you did austerities? If you are indeed self-contained, then why did you have to do austerities? Are you saying the powers have been bestowed upon you by someone higher than you? But I don't see anyone higher than you here. Everything is under you, under your influence, right? My dear father, you know everything. You are the controller of all. Therefore, may all that I have inquired from you kindly be instructed to me so that I may be able to understand it as your student. See, again, to ask a question in the Vedic culture, it's not like, oh, we don't have, it's a long journey. We need some time to kill. Let's do some time pass conversation. Just to kill the time, let's have some conversation. No, this is a very serious, submissive inquiry in the mood of a student. Even though he's a son, even the conversation, it's not an ordinary conversation between father and son. It's a very serious philosophical discussion between a spiritual master and disciple. So Narada established that, and so now Brahma, he begins his reply. Can you imagine? Try to put yourself in Brahmaji's shoes. Everybody around you thinks you are the boss. And now your own son and your foremost disciple and son, both together, comes to you and questions your authority, are you indeed the boss or is somebody higher than you? Right? Will you feel threatened? Oh, if I reveal my source, will I lose my Instagram following? Will everybody go to my source? Wherever, whoever is the source of my lectures, will they all go there? Whoever is the source of my authority and magic, will they go there? Right? Brahmaji didn't feel an iota of insecurity. On the contrary, he appreciates Narada. My dear boy Narada, being merciful upon me, you asked me this question because you gave me an opportunity to remember the Supreme Lord. That shows how humble, how grounded Brahmaji was, right? And that's what makes him a true acharya, a true spiritual preceptor. He says, all these questions you have asked, they have inspired me to see into the prowess of the Almighty Personality of Godhead. Bhagavat Virya Darshane. I want to now, close my eyes and meditate upon the Supreme Lord and fill my heart with devotional gratitude. And whatever you have spoken about me is not false. So please understand, humility many times we don't understand the concept of humility. Humility is because it's not an intellectual concept. That's the problem with humility. You can't act humble. You are humble or you are not. You can't act humble. It's not a left-brained response that you can mimic. Because humility, many times under false humility, we start denying everything, even what we duly deserve credit, even that we deny. Because it takes a lot of humility to accept your own glories and to admit your glories. Because many times we can't handle that, like that's why only when there is self-worth, there is humility. These can't be separated. Because we lack self-worth, we can't be humble. And when we try to act humble, we deny our own worth. Right? So that's how crazy the mind works. So Brahmaji, he is not denying Narada's observation. You are true, Narada. I am the creator of this world, everything that you are observing. I am, it seems, your observation about me, like that spider creating everything on its own, the observation is true, right? Whatever you have spoken about me is not false, because unless and until one is aware of the personality of Godhead, who's the ultimate truth beyond me, one is sure to be illusioned by observing my powerful activities, right? Because that's how Maya works. Even forget about Brahma and creation, even in our own worldly sense, anything extraordinary, we immediately are mesmerized by that agency of extraordinariness. But we don't realize the ultimate potency behind that agency, right? When somebody does some Usain Bolt breaks the world record for 100 meters, even today, after I don't know what 12 years or something, still people are not able to break his record, right? And we are amazed by his speed. But recently I was reading an article. Poor guy, he pants for breath when he walks up the stairs. The fastest runner ever today, struggling to climb up the stairs due to whatever reasons, right? So when we see some extraordinaries, we are immediately enamored by that extraordinariness, but we don't understand that even that extraordinariness is coming from some divine force behind them. And so Brahmaji is going to reveal this very, very important verse, this 11th verse of this chapter, where now Brahmaji, he says, Yena swarochisha vishwam, by whose effulgence, rochisha means effulgence, aura, by whose aura this whole world, rochitam rochayamyaham, the whole world has already been created. I merely transform that effulgence and create this manifested world. Just like how everything on this, for example, everything on this planet, every source of energy on this planet is transformation of sunlight. Whether it be, the fossil fuels that we have, right? The fossil fuels that we use, what are they? They are just transformation of the dinosaurs and the trees and plants that existed millions of years ago, right? So the whole idea, yeah. So or all the tidal energy that we access, it's a manifestation of the gravity of the sun. All the wind energy that we access is because of the temperature difference the sun creates. So if you see, sun is the only source of energy. Everything else is a transformation. We don't realize every time even right now, your laptop is working on solar power. Whichever form of energy used, it is solar powered. So you can proudly say, I'm using solar energy, right? Whether it is today's energy or 1 million years ago sunlight, that doesn't matter. It's all solar energy. Just like that, everything in this creation is a transformation of the Lord's energy, right? And therefore, you say is very. So I merely utilize the Lord's effulgence, that Brahma Jyoti. I have used that and created this whole universe, right? And then he says, therefore, very beautiful prayer that Brahmaji offers. Tasmai namo bhagavate vasudevaya dhimahi yan mayaya durjaya mam vadanti jagat gurum. Right? I offer my respects. Dhimahi, I meditate upon Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, and by whose invisible potency influences all people to call me the Supreme Con. They think I am the Jagat Guru, right? But it is the Lord's Maya that is causing all of this. And if you think Maya is its own independent creator, Prakriti is functioning in the form of Maya is the instrumental cause of this creation. No, he says even this illusory energy, this material energy, Maya Shakti, cannot take precedence. And he personifies this Maya Shakti and says even she remains in the background, just like how in front of a king, all the subjects, they go away and they go into the background. Just like that, Maya herself, she backs away from the Supreme Lord. If you remember in the first canto, when we discussed Vyasa's realization of the Supreme Lord, we saw how Vyasa, when he had the vision of the Supreme Lord, he saw the Supreme Lord and his shadow Maya behind him, very shy, hiding behind him, right? Because where there is Krishna, there cannot be Maya. Where there is sun, there cannot be darkness. So this material world, which is comprised of darkness, literally, from microscopic level to telescopic level, wherever you see only darkness. Somewhere in between, you see some light. That's the illusion of Maya. Actually, Maya is all darkness. She just covers our consciousness with this darkness. And that Maya, she is not the creator. And on the contrary, she illusions people into thinking that it is I, it is mine, that me and mine understanding. So he says, now he answers the first question that Narada asked, that what is the rupam? Rupam means the characteristics of this creation. He says that these are the characteristics of creation. Dravya, this world is comprised of some ingredients like earth, water, fire, air, ether. Kala, time factor. Karma, the action and reactions, the interaction of these elements. Dravya, karma, kala. And there is swabhava. Swabhava is the nature, that drives the personality, the nature of the living entity, that makes one act in a particular way. So dravya, karma, kalascha, swabhava, Jiva, the living entity himself. So we covered 5 things. So if you go back to our Gita triangle from our YTTC level 1 course, if you remember, literally these are just transformations of those. If you remember our YTTC triangle, we studied there is Ishvara, Jiva and Prakriti. So Prakriti is comprised of Dravya, the ingredients. What is linking Jiva and Prakriti? It is Karma. So Jiva, Karma, Prakriti. And we saw what was linking Ishvara and Prakriti. It was Kala, the time factor, right? So even that we covered. Okay? So there is Dravya, ingredients, Prakriti, Kala, time. There is Karma, the Jiva, and little one more factor, the Jiva's inclinations, the Swabhava. So these 5 factors, these are the characteristics of creation. But do not think these are 5 independent truths. They are also dependent on Vasudeva. Dravyam karma cha kalascha swabhavo jiva eva cha Vasudevat paro brahman na cha anyo arthosti tattvataha. So the 5 ingredients, earth, water, fire, air, ether, dravya, the interaction, karma, by the eternal time, kala, the intuition or nature of the living entity, and the living entity itself, they are all differentiated parts and parcels of that personality of Godhead Vasudeva, and in truth, there is no other value in them. And this is where the very beautiful understanding of oneness and difference comes in. So, because even within the Vedic fold, there is the concept of oneness. The monoistic philosophies are there, and they are the dualistic philosophies. But if you see, Bhagavatam very beautifully highlights this concept of how matter, the individual spirit, their interactions, the time factor, all of them are simultaneously one with and different from the Supreme Lord. So that is why if you go back to our YTTC notes, you would have noticed right in the middle of the triangle, I wrote an important term, absolute truth, Param Satya. And that Param Satya is Krishna, Vasudeva, as this verse says, as the entire Bhagavad Gita explains. So the understanding is that how, so what does it mean? How does it happen? Is it that is matter same as Krishna? Is time same as Krishna? Jiva same as Krishna? So it is not talking about this kind of a monoistic oneness, nor is it talking in terms of dualistic difference. It talks in terms of how that one Supreme Lord has different varieties of energies. And the energies, again, understand the word energy, it is non-different from the energetic. The classical example quoted is that of sunlight and sun. Just like how sunlight is non-different from the sun, and yet sunlight is not the same as sun. Likewise, these energies of the Lord, which are the separated parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, it is them which go through these transformations of this material world. So the Jiva is not its own independent truth. The Jiva has its origins in Vasudeva. Time is not its own independent truth. It is a kind of an external energy of the Lord. Matter is not its own independent truth that works on its own. Right? Like how Big Bang says, the bang just happened. Who's the control of the bang? The universe itself. No. Even that material energy is also functioning because it's an energy. It's like a separate energy. Just like how this finger is my energy. My words, my speech is my separated energy. My thoughts are my internal energy. Yet, I am not my thoughts, I am not my speech, I am not my finger. Right? So, likewise, the Supreme Lord has these energies which cannot exist on their own independently. They are fully dependent on Him, just like how my speech and my thoughts and my hands are dependent on me. They are non-different from me. You are not hearing somebody else, you are hearing me. You are not saying, I am listening to the sound coming out of Nimai Lila's mouth. That's not how you speak. Though technically you are right, you just say, I'm listening to Nimai Lila. But are you? No. Technically, you are interacting with the energy that I am releasing from my vocal cords. It's my separated energy that you are interacting with, but for all practical reasons, you are interacting with me. This is a classical example of oneness and difference, right? So this is how the Bhagavad Puran very beautifully explained the concept of oneness and difference. So in the ultimate sense, it is all that one truth. Ekam sat vipra bahudo vadati, as the Upanishads describes. There is only one truth. The thinkers, the vipra, the wise souls, they may describe it differently, but there is only one truth. But that one truth should not be understood in that monoistic oneness, and the different truths should not be understood in terms of the dualistic difference, but it is that simultaneous oneness and difference, that achintya beda abeda concept, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, right? And then very beautifully, so if that is the form, right, then yet what is the adhishtanam, what is the basis, and who's the controller? Very beautifully the next two verses describe that. Narayana paraveda deva narayana angaja, narayana paroloka narayana paramakha, narayana parayogo narayana param tapaha, narayana param jnanam narayana paragatihi. So even if you don't understand Sanskritam, I'm sure you got the answer. That one word that repeated 8 times, every line there is this word, Narayana. Right? So it is at Narayan, it is at Krishna as Narayan, Vasudeva as Narayan. He is the Adhishtanam, he is a shelter, he is a substrat, he is the basis upon whom all these characteristics are based on. This whole creation is based on that one supreme Narayan. And he is the ultimate controller. Very beautiful translation. Narayana Paraveda. He is the ultimate knowledge. All the Vedesha Sarver Ahameva Vedyo. The point of studying the Vedas is to realize me, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter. And then he says, Deva Narayana Angaja. All the Devatas are limbs of that one Supreme Lord Narayan. We're going to talk about this in our next to next class. In fact, this creation we're going to discuss over 3 classes. So while this class we are just setting the scene, in the next class we are going to discuss the whole blueprint of creation. Through a chart we are going to discuss the whole creation, and in the last series we are going to see the concept of the universal form of creation. So in that we see the universal form. All the devatas are limbs of that one Purusha. In fact, these are very, very famous, celebrated prayers in the Rig Veda called as the Purusha Sukta. Right? So the Sahasra Sirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha, he has hundreds of thousands of heads, thousands of arms. The entire universe is part of his body. All the devatas are part of this body. That Purusha is Narayana. Very clearly, Vyasadeva is clarifying that to us. And Narayana Paraloka, that all the different planets are also meant for him. They are all part of him. Narayana Paramakha, all the different sacrifices, activities that we do are meant to please him. Narayana Paro Yogo, even all the different meditations and mysticism, all the yogic paths are to realize Narayana. Narayana Param Tapaha, all the austerities, the goal of all austerities is to realize Narayana. Narayana Param Jnanam, the highest knowledge, the culture of transcendental knowledge is to, Prabhupada very beautifully puts it, for getting a glimpse of Narayana. And Narayana Paragatihi, he is that ultimate goal. Gati means the destination, the end of our spiritual journey. He is that ultimate goal of our journey, right? So, and inspired by him only, I discover what is already created by him under his vision. And this is where Brahmaji's greatness comes, because it is very easy to see what is perceptible. It takes divine vision to see what is imperceptible. Meaning, Brahmaji he was inspired to create, so he never took credit for that creation. He gave the credit to the source of that inspiration. Like you and I, we come up with some brilliant class or write a brilliant paper or create something nice, and we immediately take credit. Oh, it was my idea. We even put our name and patent it. But Brahmaji never patented the creation. Very clearly, he is saying it is Narayana's creation, right? And he already created. It's like, for example, made a building. Did the mason make the building or did the architect make the building? Right? The architect already created the blueprint. The mason just followed the blueprint and put the bricks together. So who gets the credit? The architect. I may be the mason, the plans from the architect and created with the, again, even the bricks also are not mine. I used Narayana's energy, the Brahmajyoti I used to transform it and I created. So he is a supreme architect who already revealed to me his vision. And I myself am a product of his creation. Right? And he says that he goes into little details of this creation. He says that how sattva, rajas and tamas, all these, the material nature means basically these three gunas, right? This he creates this, he accepts this form of three gunas. Even though he's beyond the three gunas, he accepts the three gunas, which means not only is Maya, not only is the earth, water, fire, air, ether coming from Narayan, not only is Maya herself coming from Narayan, even the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas are coming from Narayan. Ultimately, there is only this one Narayan. Right? So, when the Upanishads, it says, Sarvam khalau idam Brahman, ultimately there is only that one Brahman that exists. Right? So, Vyasa is giving a deeper insight. Ultimately, there is only that one Narayan. Even these three energies of sattva, rajas, tamas he personally manifests. He accepts them. Even though he's beyond the three gunas, he accepts them through his external energy and manifests this goodness, passion, ignorance. Right? And then what he does, these three modes, they manifest as matter, knowledge, and activities. And this is a very, very important term. Dravya, Jnana, and Kriya. Dravya, we used the word earlier. Dravya means the ingredients, right? Matter. Jnana means knowledge, and Kriya means action. So basically, if you see in this world, again, go back to our YTTC class. Now you realize how much we discussed in YTTC in Sutras. So if you go back to class 2 of the Gita series, when we discussed Prakriti, if you recall from your notes, I said this is the fundamental equation of creation. Facility plus knowledge equals experience. Right? And we understood that facility was this material energy, knowledge is coming from Paramatma, and the experience of this material world, the Jiva goes through. Right? So this is, so the facility is Dravya. Jnana is that knowledge, and Kriya, action, which ultimately leads to an experience. So ultimately in this whole world, only these three things are happening. There is matter, there is knowledge, and there is experience coming from those activities. So the whole world is basically designed for the sake of these three things. Dravya, Jnana, Kriya, for these three things to happen. So these three modes of material nature, they manifest as matter, knowledge, and activities, and put the eternal living entity under the cause and effect, making him responsible for such activities. So Karya, Karana, and Krityatve. Karya means the effect, Karana, the cause, and Kritva, in activity. So that's how we get stuck in this causal cycle, cause and effect. In the karmic cycle, the Jiva gets stuck because the three modes, they manifest as Dravya, Jnana, and Kriya, as matter, knowledge, and activities. Right? And he says that, oh Narada, the transcendental Lord is beyond the perception of material senses of the living entity because he is beyond the three modes. and yet he's controlling all of us through his energies. So very beautifully, uh, now, so if you just reflect back on what we discussed so far, the Lord, he expands his energies, manifests himself as material energy. He expands himself as a living entity. He expands himself as the time factor. He expands himself as the karma of the living entity. And now he's causing, from that material energy, he expands as these three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, causing the living entity to get entangled in this whole cycle of matter, knowledge, and activities, and get stuck in this causation cycle, the cause and effect cycle, and now is perpetuating his material existence. All of this, everything in this creation is happening because of that one Supreme Lord. He is the creation, and yet he remains as a creator independent of this creation. Pashyame Yogamaishwaram. Behold my mystic opulence, as Krishna says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Right? So that he is that cause of all causes. So we may think this whole world is running because of material energy. This chapter says, no, that material energy is coming from Narayan, from Vasudeva, from Krishna. Oh, this whole material energy is running because of time. No, the time factor is also coming from Narayan, from Krishna. No, this material world is running because of the Prime Minister and President, or Devatas, or Brahma. No, even they are coming from Krishna. So whatever cause you may attribute for the creation, for the running of this whole creation, it's all coming. The ultimate cause of all causes is that one Supreme Lord, Vasudeva, Krishna. And that how Lord Krishna, how Vasudeva, how Narayana, he creates this perfect formation, how this creation manifests, yet srishtam, how the srishti expands, how the manifestation of this material world happens from the subtlest to the physical elements, right? How this whole creation unfurls, that we are going to discuss in our next class. So the whole blueprint of this creation is going to be unveiled in the subsequent verses. So that requires a whole section in itself, right? So if you see, basically this chapter has two sections. The first part is talking about how Krishna is a cause of all causes. Vasudeva, Narayana is a cause of all causes. The second half, from text number 20 onwards, it focuses more on how this Srishti is manifesting, how this creation is manifesting. So we will go into elaborate details in our next chapter, and I'll try to use a whiteboard and try to present it so it can bring in more clarity. All right, so let's stop our discussion here. Would anybody has any quick questions or comments on anything? I know it's a little complicated topic. Yes, Apurva, go on.
Hare Krishna, I'm audible.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji, when we say that Krishna is above the three modes of material nature, but he accepts the gunas for the sake of creation, are we referring to the gunavataras?
Again, that will come as a Purushavasaras, and the Gunavataras will come in the second part. Yes, but yes, at one level, in the manifested sense, yes. But even in the unmanifested sense, even those three gunas are energies of Krishna. That is understanding at this point we are trying to capture. When we go into the details of the creation, we will come to a stage where we see that, oh, even those three gunas, Krishna accepts them as a gunavataras, and even before the gunavataras, as a purushavasaras, as Karnodakshaya, Garbhodakshaya, Kshirodakshaya, Vishnus, he is involved in the creation. So he's hands-on involved in the creation at every level. So the understanding we need to develop here is that Krishna is present with us right now as his external energy, as sattva, rajas, tamas, his material, the three gunas, the material modes of nature. So one should not disconnect the energies of the Lord from him. This is so, because then otherwise you will call yourself as the philosophy of Achintya Bedha Tattva. So our philosophy is Achintya Bedha and Abedha, right? What do you mean by that? Let's try to understand. Prabhupada gives a beautiful example of how the gunas, the energies of the Lord being like electricity. The same electricity can produce heat when you put it through a heater, and the same electricity can produce cooling when you put it in a refrigerator. In the Padma Puran, two very similar words comes that same beautiful internal energy, Radha, she transforms as Durga, the Tapakari, and creates austerities and puts the living entities into that troublesome situation in this, the rebellious living entities in this material world. So what it goes on to say is that the Lord is very much present in the creation. Unlike, for example, in many Abrahamic traditions, for example, God is a transcendent entity. God is somewhere in heaven, and we are here rotting in this material world on earth, right? But that's not the Vedic understanding. While he does exist as a Sachidananda Swarupa in Goloka, he's also in this creation. He is the creation, and he accepts the body of the three gunas and manifests himself. This is his inconceivable nature. That is the part being highlighted here. And when he to control those gunas, he also takes specific forms as the Sattva Gunavatara, Rajogunavatara, Tamogunavataras, as Gunavataras, because the Gunavataras themselves, they are not influenced by the gunas, right? Yeah, Prabhupada in one place he writes that sometimes Lord Shiva may get angry, but one should not see it as a disqualification in him, right? So that's the understanding. So the Lord is the gunas. That is that is where we need to really expand our understanding, right?
Prabhuji, but when you say he accepts the body of the three gunas, what are you referring to there?
So the see the word, the literally the word that is used is grihita mayaya vibho. So it says Shrishti Sthiti Sarga Nirodeshu, for the sake of creation, maintenance and destruction. Sattva Rajas Tama iti Nirgunasya Gunastrayaha. So one who is Nirguna, one who is transcendental, he accepts Gunatrayaha, he Grihita, he accepted. So the word is accepted. So to understand that clearly, Prabhupada translates it as he accepts a form of the three gunas. So accepting the three gunas, basically he transforms, because for him to create the three gunas, he expands as these three gunas. However, we don't see them as divine spiritual energies, we call them as separated external energy. That's why we say there is the external energy, there's the internal energy, and there's a marginal energy. So the external energy, he accepts that. The moment you separate external energy as independent from Supreme Lord, then you are saying external energy is its own living, separate, independent force. It has no causal connection, right? So for the external energy to come from the Supreme Lord means Supreme Lord transformed himself and produced that, right? So another example given is a flutist plays the flute, right? What is a flutist doing technically? Producing air. But what does that air transform as? Music, right? So if there is no air, so you can say the flutist accepted a body of music. But what did the flutist do? He just produced air. That air went through the transformation and it manifested as music. But can that music exist without the flutist? Because music and flutist, they look very different. But can the music exist independent of the flutist? No. So the musician accepted a separated form called as music and manifested himself through the flute. So this description, and it's a very pertinent question, I'm glad you asked this. This is the very specific reason why select choice of words are used and why Prabhupada also translates in a specific way, so that we never forget the concept of abedha, the non-difference aspect. Therefore, When you start becoming spiritual, using that very same matter which is comprised of three gunas, you can access Krishna. That's why we discussed in our last class how that Chiti Shakti, the spiritual potency of the Supreme Lord, manifests through matter. We discussed how book is paper, ink is paper, everything is matter. How is matter causing spiritual transformation? Right? Because when you are ready to see the spirit in matter, suddenly within that, from that matter emerges the spirit. So because right now, because we are under the influence of the Maya, under the three gunas, we are only able to see the external energy. But once the journey of surrender begins, suddenly that same Maya transforms. Suddenly the same three gunas transform and they will manifest to you the spiritual understanding and spiritual reality. That's the thing. Therefore, we are not Maya haters. Neither are we Maya worshippers. Right? We understand that how Maya is a very respected energy of the Lord. And the only person who deserves to enjoy that energy is a Supreme Lord. Whatever as per my duty, the Ishavasyam concept, whatever is ordained to me as per my duty, I will interact with material energy to that much amount. And if I do so with that mindset, I will never get entangled. Right? So that is the Ishavasyam principle that is described. So this is the understanding. So that's where you are able to now appreciate. This is the foundational, the core philosophical concepts which leads to all the Vedic culture and practices. That is why you see in Vedic culture, rivers are holy, but God is not that river. Cow is holy, but God is not that cow. Deities are holy, but God is not just that deity. Deity is the form of the Lord manifested for the sake of seva, receiving seva from a devotee. Right? Therefore, when somebody breaks a deity, they don't kill God. Right? So that is a limited understanding sometimes people have. So in the proper traditional understanding is the Supreme Lord, he is present in the creation, even in these external energies, and that the way to access that is through this whole spiritual evolution that we go through. This Abheda Tattva we need to understand here. Yes, Harshika.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class, sir. It was very fun. Actually, on this gunas only. Then how is what we are saying? Is this the same as Parinam Vad, which is to say that the milk itself becomes curd, but we also say that Krishna remains unchanged? How do we understand that?
Yeah. So this is called as Shakti Parinamavada. So in the Vedanta, broadly you can classify them as two schools. One is called as Vivartavada and there is Shakti Parinamavada. All the Bhakti schools, Madhva, Ramanuja, Nimbarka, Chaitanya, they all come in the concept of the Shakti Parinamas. What does it mean? Vivartavada basically says Supreme Lord is so great, he never changes. Then immediately a question comes, then why are the gunas changing? Why is the material world changing? You are saying ultimately everything is coming from that one Narayan, and Narayan is infallible, unchangeable. Then why are seasons changing? Why is my body deteriorating? I should not deteriorate, matter should not deteriorate. Shankara's best answer to that question was, what body, what world? Jagat Maya. Brahma Satyam Jagat Maya. So that theory of illusion is called Vivarta. So that Vivartavada technically is the word Advaita philosophy centered around the concept of the Vivartavada. Whereas the Vaishnava philosopher, the Vaishnava Vedanta is centered around the concept that yes, Narayan is the creation, but that creation is a separated energy. So the Shaktis of Narayan go through transformation. Narayan will always remain Achyuta, infallible. So that's the concept of the Shakti Parinamavada.
And then in the Shakta theology, it is essentially that the divine is also the matter. There is no difference. Is
Yeah,
that the yeah?
yeah. So for example, again, now this is kind of an extension of the Sankhya philosophy, where extend into modern day Kashmiri Shaivism, Shaktism. They have very similar understanding, right? Where the potential and the potent both exist together, and that is a creation. So the Shiva and Shakti exist together, right? So mind you, even in the Vaishnava understanding, we have a concept of the Shiva Tattva. So the time factor that we spoke about, that is a Shiva Tattva. Because if you see, time is technically not external energy like Dravya, nor is it internal energy or the marginal energy like the Jiva. Time is neither Jiva energy nor external energy. Time is somewhere in between. That is the Shiva Tattva from the Vaishnava understanding. Whereas in the Shaktites, in the Kashmiri Shaivism, even the Tantra tradition, which are also, we have very similar roots that they have. There, the potent and the potential, they exist together. That is a creation, right? And so, bringing out the potent from the potential is the whole game. Rising the Kundalinis, finding the Shiva and Shakti union, You know, the nomenclature varies again, but you got the point. All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, let's end our discussion here. And yeah, please, whenever you get time, please go through these purports. Beautiful, amazing, insightful purports Srila Prabhupada writes. We can't cover everything in our classes, but from this text number 19 onwards, we'll take it up in our next theme, where we are going to unveil the whole blueprint of creation. Right? Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.